Welcome back to the Lanterne Rouge Cycling Podcast for Stage 14 of the Giro d'Italia. We were lamenting yesterday, how dare RCS, how dare the race organisers put a sleepy, boring sprint stage on a Saturday when everyone has time off to watch the race. And that's not what we got today in the Giro d'Italia. It's been a great Giro so far, in my opinion, or pretty good. And today was maybe not good, but there's a lot of stuff to talk about. This episode is brought to you by our show partner, Join Cycling Benji. He can't wait to do the Join Cycling read today, actually. Even before recording, he was like, I've got stuff to tell, so we'll throw it to him soon. But the profile of this stage, 193 Ks, absolutely flat for 140. They then go over a few hills over to Slovenia, over the border. Beautiful crowds and a beautiful climb, actually. And then they descend. And then this stage is all about this city circuit in Nova Gorica, which has a pave, chicanes, narrowings, and then before a punchy 700 meters at 7.7%, a quick descent, and then they go and do it all again before a flat sprint finish. The last hill is 8 Ks from the finish. So this reminds me a lot of Paris-Nice stages. In stage one, they always put a little kicker near the finish. And any news pre-stage, Benji?
Not necessarily, I think. You can go ahead.
Brandon Rivera abandoned with sickness. That's the only note I have.
I didn't even know that. So thank you very much for the intel for this stage. Now, breakaway formation. I was naive. I thought, okay, we're going to start the stage and we're going to have 3 Italian men from pro teams jumping in the breakaway and that's it. No. Actual breakaway formation action today. And I want your opinion on this. A group forms including 2 riders from Alpecin, Hermans van den Bosche, 2 riders from Decathlon, AG2R, De Bon, De Wolf, then Asgreen for Jeff, Paleni for Groupama, Van der Hoorn. No, well, I think it was first Mankies actually for Intermarché. Then Czerny and Lamperti for Soudal Quickstep. Actually, it was Taco in this group. Lamperti, then Edmondson for Picnic Postinel, and Wout van Aert. How many of these riders were trying to get in the breakaway? And were there riders in that group that accidentally got into it because they were trying to control break formation?
I think that Van Aert came in at 8th wheel because Visma didn't want to control a group of more than 5 today. And then there's a split behind him, and he's like, I'm in. And he's like, actually, he's looking around like, not a bad break. Alpecin are pulling with Kermans and Van den Bosche. Asgren's pulling. Taco's pulling. Czerny's got Lamperti and he's pulling. Let's go.
Well, not let's go. Because this breakaway didn't actually end up going. There were multiple teams that were a bit unhappy about it. You've got the likes of Q36.5 that's not involved with Moschetti as a sprinter. Then Tudor was pacing a little bit. Ineos was the last team to really close the final gap towards this group and make it inexistent. But then there were a few riders, well, at least one rider from this group that thought to themselves, okay, I actually want to go in the breakaway. Kasper Asgreen goes into a second breakaway together with Mirko Maestri, Marcellucci, Mankies. Was there a 5th rider? Was it Davy?
Clement Davy, yeah. I thought it was Paleni was in the first break, and then it was Clement Davy. I think Groupama actually been as active as one could hope for. And these, there's no breaks winning so far
considering
in this Giro.
The team.
Yeah, considering Godou's out. But they were. In the end, it's actually ball knowers know. It's actually as Benji say, a low key strong break. Mirko Maestri, what was his last break shenanigans of memory? Tirreno Adriatico stage 4, the 200k crosswind stage where Ben Healy bridged across to him and Olav Koy won at the last minute. He went into the last 500 meters of that stage. He's a strong rider.
He was also the 2nd rider in that Alaphilippe breakaway last year in the Giro. So this man's actually a good rider. By the way, I need to call someone out. Eric Guzman, there's a guy in our YouTube chat that has donated $9 to us as a donation to Benji's gnocchi fund. I'm sorry, but this joke has gone too far. I don't want to see the word gnocchi for the rest of my life. Nonetheless, this breakaway went up the road and I thought to myself, it's over. This is the breakaway that will get caught eventually. Despite Maestri and Asgreen being solid riders, Taco Van der Hoorn tried a last-minute bridge because, let's be honest about it, Intermarché was not necessarily happy about Mankies being part of a breakaway on a stage like this. And actually, Intermarché ends up pulling Mankies a whack from this breakaway to the peloton. They make him wait because they think to themselves, this break has no chance. And I thought, this break has no chance, so I do my siesta in this stage. You might have been watching a lot today, Patrick, but I was the one not in sleepy mode. I decided to first go on a little walk because those activities also count in the Join Cycling app. But then afterwards, I did my ride that was told by Join Cycling for me to do today, an intensity ride. I did choose a Zwift race over the ride that was specified for me because I want the competitiveness in that. But nonetheless, at the end of that ride, my EFTP went up. And another update, in the last month of doing my Join Cycling training regularly, consistently, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you miss one training, you try and be as consistent as possible. And the app then basically adapts according to what you have done. So if I miss my training today, it might put it tomorrow or the day after. And that's the beautiful thing about this app. Consequence, I've lost 3 kilos in the last month. Pretty good.
Yeah, Benji's doing really, really well. I'm also actually doing pretty well with, because I do a lot of running. I can barely
see you.
Well, I do a mix of running and cycling, and now Join Cycling caters to that. You can set how many running workouts you want to have a week. You can do multiple, not just one either. And if you're looking to actually improve your riding this year, the annual membership's the way to go. Make an annual commitment through our link down below. It's under €10 a month. You can do the free trial, do the 30-day free trial, no credit card required, and then under €10 a month. I mean, you compare that to other paid subscriptions to not coaches, but other paid platforms. Under €10 a month or under 10 USD a month is a crazy value for all the functionality that Join Cycling has. And you can get full access to adaptive training plans. And on average, Join users increase their FTP by almost 20% in a year. 20% FTP increase. And that's, I mean, if you're fully compliant, that number's usually even higher. It's not just theory, it works. So go down through our link down below, 30-day free trial. Or if you want to get stuck straight in, the annual plan is the way to go. Saves you 23% compared to paying monthly.
Join the Lanterne Rouge Cycling Podcast group on it, because I need my competitiveness with all the viewers and listeners here.
Someone knock Benji off his horse.
That ain't happening. That ain't happening. It's not gonna. By the way, something did knock me off my horse. I was doing my all-out sprint at the end of my my race today. I get off the bike, I turn on my stream of the race again, and I realize, okay, this race was not that sprint stage I expected it to be. This race had action. Because we spoke about it when it comes to the parkour. There's this concurrent hills with about roughly, with 20 kilometers to go, you've got twice a hill, the Savere climb, 700 meters, 7.7%. And there's a descent of that hill as well that goes into, would you describe it as a small village with cobblestones on the road?
Yeah, it's a nice, picturesque Slovenian town with some rain that's just come down and slippery, wet cobbles. Now, they're not like Belgian cobbles, but they're still cobbles and they're slippery. And it's really, so the two teams controlling, and I think Visma are in a bind here. They got Koi, who's not the best climbing sprinter. So, but if they bring back Asgren before the hills, maybe you get punchers or other riders jumping if you bring back the breakaway. But then Asgren, if you don't bring him back before the hills, you're going to lose Domestiques on the hills. Van Baarle gone. Kelderman out of position. And then you've got flat that you're trying to close to Kasper Asgren. Now, Kasper Asgren has not had the best run of things compared to his 2021 level.
Yeah.
But, in the classics, that is. But, in his quote-unquote bad years at Soudal Quickstep, in the third week of the Tour de France, he was by far the strongest rouleur in the race in the third week. 2 consecutive stages. One, should have won the other one. So it's not just a matter of course that you bring him back, even if the gap is 50 seconds. Alpecin, on the other hand, I think should have been smashing the hills. You're not going to drop Caden Groves on 5%. So I would have been trying to get rid of Koi. But anyway, we're up to Ineos, I think. Benji, Ineos, did you see them? They started to smash a descent for positioning with Tarling. The gap went to 38 seconds. Aronson lost his wheel, and then they stopped because Bernal wasn't there. Bora take over, and then Bora do the right thing. Why are we going to do this wet descent into town at the same speed as Asgren? And they put the brakes on, take it chill. Gap goes out to 55 again.
Gap goes out to 255 again, but at the end of the day, we're looking at a race where this breakaway does seem to suddenly have a chance. So which teams are willing to get that breakaway caught? And in my opinion, Visma Leasebike is certainly a team in this race that would like that breakaway to be caught. Was it them that went to the front that eventually ended up to the what I would call the chaos event in today's race?
Yeah, so Visma, they put Van Baarle's gone after the descent. They enter the city circuit. Kelderman's nowhere. It's looking dicey, actually, to even bring back this breakaway. Alberson had been helping beforehand control it with Jimmy Janssens. I think even Picnic put a rider for Casper Van Uden. And you say, why would they do that? But it's like, well, he might come like third or fourth.
Yeah.
He might even win. I don't know if he'll make it over the hill, but like, it's still UCI points. Q365, I don't understand, to be honest. Like,
respect Moschetti.
No, but first of all, it's Moschetti, not the best climbing sprinter. Secondly, Pidcock's your big rider. Take him out of GC. If he's in that break today, instead of closing it down, the first break with Wow, he can win that and have a big day out on the cameras. But anyway, they enter the city circuit. Gap is not moving to Kasper Asgreen, Mirko Maestri, and Luca Kovili. Clement Davy was dropped. Bart Lemon starts going way too quick, at least for Wout van Aert and Simon Yates' taste, on this cobbled section. And indeed, there's Josh Tarling was in front. He's looking around for Ineos. I'll go through really slowly what I can see from the multi-screen. Tarling slides back. Bahrain were in good position with Caruso, positioned by Eulalio. That kid is good, by the way, that Portuguese kid. Okay, he's not setting the world on fire, but he's there when he needs to be. Golbakar was Domestique. He's doing a great job for a Neo Pro. There's a right-hander, then a left-hander as the pavé starts. And Tarling's looking back. He goes back, and then as they enter the pavé, there's a left-hander, a narrowing, and a Bahrain rider. I think it's a Bahrain rider. I'm not entirely sure. He goes down.
I think so.
He goes down right in front of Pedersen. And basically at, I would say, position 20 in the group. And all of Visma, in terms of Van Aert, Kooi, and Yates, are in front. And basically every single person behind that crash is behind, except for one guy, Isaac Del Toro. Isaac Del Toro was not in the front split when it happened, and he bridges himself over.
But at the end of the day, like, if you are caught behind a crash like this, in a very narrow street, cobble area, etc., so you're already kind of lucky that you also just don't crash by the reaction of it, because if you go around that corner, rider crash in front of you, you might overreact and you might crash as well. We're relatively lucky that the amount of riders on the floor was not insane. But the riders that did crash were high-profile riders. We had, like you said, Pedersen down, but also Ciccone was one of the biggest victims of this crash here. Bernal hit the ground as well. And in general, so many riders were just blocked by it. The fact that Del Toro got by, Del Toro is a pretty special rider when it comes to positioning. Today's positioning wasn't necessarily at the front, but in a way, he still managed to get to that front group after this crash even happened. So this guy has some kind of X factor in that sense, that the other riders here, at the end of the day, half of them also were quite unlucky by the position they were in. Like, Roglic is not in the top 20 riders, so he is behind. Ayuso is also behind after this crash. And we get multiple groups on the road, riders that get on the bike and try and go riding again. And it's absolute chaos in the race at the moment. And just to give you a grasp of what scenario we have at the moment is, we've still got Asgreen together with two Italians up front. Then in the group behind that, we've got Visma Leasebike with a lot of riders in that front split of the peloton from that crash, with Del Toro, who, like you said, has bridged towards that. But then there's a proper gap, to be honest, to the next group, which is the Roglic group. Roglic, Ayuso, Bernal, Arensman, all in that group behind the Visma lap. And what was it? 40 seconds, I reckon, was the gap? Roughly 45 seconds, maybe?
I think even maybe less. It might have been 30. It definitely came down to like 20 on the first time they went up the hill. But yeah, Asgreen is just storming. Maestri and Kovili basically can't hold his wheel anymore. He gets them on a gap through some corners, and I don't know when he loses them. I think maybe a bit later. But we were looking, where's Roglic? It's raining. Where's Bahrain? Looks the same as Bora's kit from the front. Where's Ayuso? Where's UAE? Because the whole time we were looking at the run-in. Okay, we saw Tarling. Bernal was in good position. Bernal's unlucky because he actually was in okay position, but that meant he was right behind the crash. I don't know if he crashed, but he was literally like the first guy to come to the pile up, whereas other guys were just blocked.
Is the reason that Del Toro was able to surpass the crash and bridge because he was on the left side of the road going into the crash?
Yeah, I think he was forward enough that there wasn't 12 riders blocking in front of him trying to get through.
Okay.
And he could snake his way through, and he was definitely on a gap at some point. He also, Del Toro, was not so confident on the pavé. He was slipping and sliding.
We saw, let's be honest, Del Toro had a pretty terrible time trial, the last one. And I truly believe that partially the reason for that was not necessarily just physical. I also think that it was the fact that it was super rainy that day, that during his time trial, a certain portion of the parcours was wet, and that he might not necessarily be the best in super wet conditions. And maybe that's partially the reason we see that again. On the other side, it's odd to have that happen when in a gravel stage, technically, he's done much better. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I think he has like a mountain bike background. That was what he was doing, and then he started training on the road and progressed quickly and won Tour de l'Avenir, but he was doing mountain bike, CX, this and that. But yeah, a front group is created, and it's got multiple Alpecin, Kielich, Plancart, Groves, and maybe one other. I think, maybe just them. Movistar actually they were in really good position. There and there with Aular, Ina Rubio, and Jefferson Cepeda. Bardet is in there with
Pool. We had Wout van Aert, Kooi, Lemon, and Yates for Visma. Obviously, Del Toro for UAE. Derek G for Israel. Carapaz and Honoré for EF. Oldani for Cofidis as a one-man. And by the way, importantly for Patrick himself, Damiano Caruso as the solo Bahrain rider here, because Tiberi is not even in the Roglic group. Tiberi is in the group behind the Roglic group, and like 50 seconds behind based on the ticker at that point in the race. And just in addition to that, Chicone is in Narnia, and let's hope he's okay physically. I don't know if he's going to be in the race tomorrow. I would have to read the update on the Little Trek social media tonight, I feel. But let's hope he's relatively okay after that crash. Time-wise, he's going to be out of the GC regardless. But
I think Tiberi's the guy who might have gone down first. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
It's a Bahrain jersey that goes down, and yeah, Caruso was positioned really well from Eulalio. Anyway, Visma start pulling all out with Lemon. There's still the matter of Maestri and Asgren up the road. Is this play on, Benji? Because Visma start ripping it with Van Aert and Lemon.
The way I look at cycling, I've always had the opinion, regardless of the situation, that I think when the race is on, the race is on. In this specific situation, I feel like for Visma Lab, Olaf Kooi is in the front group. If they don't ride here, the stage win is going up the road. They have a valid argument that if they don't ride, they're giving away a potential victory with Olaf Kooi. So for that reason, I would say the play is on. But I don't necessarily like seeing major gaps on a flat stage because of a crash, So I'm torn, if that makes sense.
Yeah, Visma got the out in the what you've been pulling all day for Kooi, and what you're just going to let Mirko Meister and Asgren battle it out because people crashed. On the other hand, whereas if Kooi wasn't there and the brake was up the road, even if you'd been pulling, let's say Kooi was caught up in the crash.
Yeah.
Then I don't think it's play on. Then I think because this is not the last hill either. Then you slow pace with Lemon and you wait for the groups to return.
Yeah. I agree with that. On the other hand, I am of the opinion that if you ask the peloton, the perspective will always change of the teams, regardless, depending on where they are in the split. For example, Bora and Ineos today might feel like, okay, we kind of got bottled over here by Visma. But at the end of the day, if Visma was on the other side, they would also have the opinion, oh, that was a bit unfair, stuff like that. Because at the end of the day, teams are self-interested. But from my personal perspective, regardless of the teams, I have the opinion that if you are in the final of a race and there's a crash that happens and you're giving away a victory if you don't keep riding, then you have the right to keep riding. It's different if it's an entire peloton down. It's not like there was an entire peloton down here. There was a crash that blocked up riders.
Yeah, and I guess I agree. If if it's just Yates in front with Van Aert, and Van Aert could have won the stage, and Koi's not there, and you just pace all out with Van Aert, it would look pretty bad. But this is different. You got Koi there. You've been pacing all day, and to be honest, Yates pulls in the end for Koi to try to win the stage. And the problem is Asgreen wasn't slowing down, so that split happens. We're looking. We're trying to find who's in Group 2. Group 2: Ayuso, Roglic, Bernal, Piganzoli.
Yeah, one domestique for Roglic on the hill.
Pellizzari. I mean, whatever they're paying him. That's the thing. Like these superstar U23 riders that come in and then they get paid a lot. Okay, but he's the best all-around domestique almost in the Giro right now. Without Pellizzari, what time gap would Roglic be on in GC? He'd be
5 minutes.
Yeah. So Pellizzari's worth his weight in gold, and he's really did a fantastic job again today. Tarling dropped back, I think, for Bernal. He did make Group 1. Polti pulled for Piganzoli. And who else was in that group? Not Stora, but they didn't have many domestiques.
It fell apart on the hill. So on the hill when Pellizzari was pacing, I feel like I saw very limited riders left in the group, to be honest, including just the GC riders at some point. Store was also in there, by the way. I'm not sure if you mentioned that.
Yeah.
So he was also behind. That's also a potential top 10 competitor if we... Yeah, I would say so. He's 347 back before the stage on paper. But I was also curious, is the gap towards Tiberi going to expand? Because he actually has domestiques, eh? He's got Eulalio, Govakar, Zambanini.
They dropped Govakar back.
Well, not full team.
They dropped Govakar back.
I'm okay with that.
I agree, because what's the percentage chance he beats Groves and Koi?
Very limited. And at the end of the day, Tiberi is an actual podium competitor here.
Yeah, and he's Italian.
Yeah. Are you surprised they didn't pull Caruso back? Because at the end of the day...
No, that's crazy. That'd be crazy.
Top 10 competitor.
Caruso's in GC. What if Tiberi has to abandon tomorrow because he's hurt himself?
Fair.
You don't know.
Just trying to spice you up here.
If they drop Caruso back, I would have gone crazy.
Honestly?
What, you would have dropped Caruso back?
No, probably not.
It probably would have made a difference.
It actually probably would have.
They go around again. They go through the same spot where the crash had happened. We see riders getting put on gaps. There's a little hill up there. Lemon drives it. Van Aert's like, hold up, that's a bit too fast through there. And we see a gap. Del Toro, I was saying, has he got a slow flat? Because Del Toro kept opening gaps. Plancart was kind of looking at him like, And I thought the way Alpecin were doing it, because we come to the last hill, I thought Del Toro was going to go solo and attack. Why wouldn't he? Why would you cooperate? Well, he's not going to cooperate with the group, but this is also a chance to go clear, take time, take a stage win perhaps if Asgren's caught back. But then I think Plancart was positioning himself to follow Del Toro, but then Del Toro kept opening gaps through the city.
Yeah, but would it have looked good if Del Toro decided to attack at that moment?
We have to stop. They've been doing it for a week. He's in pink. He won Tour de l'Avenir.
Ayuso. I don't care about Ayuso. I'm talking the fact that people are behind because of a crash and then to attack the group.
So what? Let fucking Visma win with Koi or Albertson with Groves? Fuck that.
But they've got domestiques to keep riding. So are you going to really...
Do they? Bart Lemon done by the last hill.
Fair.
Simon Yates, yeah, I mean, in the end, it's all hypothetical. But yeah, I mean, Del Toro, after today especially, there should be no shackles on him. None.
Of course. Within the team of UE, of course not. Because the thing with... I've given my opinion on Del Toro and Ayuso yesterday or the day before, whatever. It's like, Del Toro is in that position, benefit from that position. It's also a good thing for Ayuso that Del Toro's in that position. Like, obviously, it's not great that you've got a teammate that's 2 minutes ahead of Roglic, but at the end of the day, it is solid because it will force Roglic to maybe overextend against Del Toro, and maybe Ayuso can benefit from that. And that's the way Ayuso can win this Giro d'Italia, in my opinion.
Oh, by the way, just as well they kept him in GC, McNulty and Yates fell to 12th and 15th. Use it or lose it.
Yep.
You cannot keep 4 riders in GC throughout 3 weeks of the Grand Tour. It's impossible. So use it or lose it, and now they lost it. what was I saying? Anyway, Plancart looks like he's lining up Del Toro, but Del Toro is actually having struggles through the city. On the hill, it starts to get sent. I don't know who was pacing. I think it was Kielich sent it. We see Coy. Coy does the sprinter's slide. He goes from position 3 and drops the whole climb and finishes at the KOM last wheel before the descent, just hanging on. But there's still the matter of Kasper Asgreen. The gap to him is down to 15, 17 seconds, and it's only 6Ks to the finish.
And it felt to me like that breakaway of 3 riders initially was almost caught, and then Asgreen made the move to keep it going. One last chance, one last opportunity to really make it work, and it started looking good. It started looking better and better into the last 8 kilometers. I was like, okay, 15 seconds, not a huge gap, but it's a gap. And Asgreen, he's no pancake. Asgreen's not a Louis Meintjes climber type. He's not a Braz Alfonso climby type. Like, he's not part of your small man club, Patrick.
Kasper Asgreen is not Clement Braz Alfonso.
Hot take. But this man can actually ride. This guy has an engine, is what I'm trying to say. So I'm thinking, okay, the amount of domestiques in that second group after that hill have deteriorated a lot, to the point that Simon Yates ends up riding for Visma Lease bike in that group for Olaf Koy, which I'm okay with that. I'm very fine with it. Also because Simon Yates is in a great position in GC, but on San Pellegrino, he didn't look that amazing either. So I feel like he can afford to ride a little bit in the final of the sprint stage, especially knowing there's a rest day on Monday as well, and there's not necessarily the craziest stage coming tomorrow either, if my memory serves me right.
Oh, they go up the Grappa tomorrow, but...
Yeah, fair. Pretty hard stage.
This stage ends with 6Ks to go. Wout van Aert pulls off the front. It's over. All due respect to Simon Yates and Jefferson Cepeda, they're not bringing back 15 seconds on Kasper Asgreen in full flight. And Alpecin Gamble, they don't... I don't know if Plancart was cooked, but it was a little bit weird how they just waited, and Simon Yates is pulling. Movistar stop. Simon Yates pulling. And he's not going to take time on Kasper Asgreen, even if he's been in the break all day. Eventually, they sort of a surge with Edward Plancart, which EF were blocking with Honoré. But it's too late. Kasper Asgreen wins actually like easily. This wasn't close. He won by 16 seconds. Incredibly impressive, and he brought back that 2023 Tour de France Week 3 break form. Caden Groves wins the sprint for second ahead of Coy. And Aulas 4th, Oldani 5th, Maestri 6th, G 7th, Pidcock 8th, Carapaz 9th, Honoré 10th. EF Education Easy Poster having a very, very good Giro d'Italia. And
let's talk gaps.
Let's talk gaps.
There's a solo man, Edward Plancart, irrelevant for GC on 43 seconds, but the group of Roglic, which is a group of roughly 13, 14 riders, finished on 104 of Asgreen, which means that they finish on 48 seconds, I think, of the group of Simon Yates and Del Toro and so forth. So that's another solid loss for Roglic and Ayuso towards Del Toro in the Giro d'Italia. Same for Bernal, same for Storrs, same for Arensman, all in that group. So those are the most important GC riders there. But then there's another gap, because on 2 minutes, there's the group of Antonio Tiberi. The entire Bahrain team must have ridden themselves into bits, because I don't actually see a single teammate left.
No, Tiberi went solo on the last climb, and the problem was all the guys who'd been dropped by the Roglic group or in between were blocking the full climb, not pedaling. They're just getting up to finish the stage, and he's literally having to do that climb in his slalom style.
And you're the Pythagoras genius, so would you reckon he climbed 50%?
He did 2 kilometers in 700 meters.
But on a serious note, he finished on 2 minutes of the stage victor, so that's on 56 seconds of Roglic and so forth, and in total on about 1 minute and 44 seconds. My math's on today, by the way. I'm not trying to flex, but I can do basic maths apparently. 144 behind the group of Del Toro is where Tiberi lands, and now I'm trying to scroll down, and I'm typing in Control F Chico, and he's on 16 minutes with the entire team of Little Trek. He's definitely out of GC, but I'm slightly worried that it might be more than out of GC at the end of the day.
Because he's a big rider. There's a week of racing left. He's hurt that badly that he can't even push like Tiberi. How realistic is it that he can win a breakaway stage?
Yeah.
even if he's technically able to race. I don't know. They're going to obviously assess it overnight. There is a rest day in 2 days. So, but yeah, hopefully Ciccone is okay, but not the day Little Trek we're hoping for. But yeah, it was a day of really,
Definitely.
it's bad luck. Bad luck, just really changing this race again. This reminded me, this was very much like the Strata stage, and Del Toro extends his lead on GC over everyone except Yates, G, Carapaz, Caruso. Simon Yates moves up 2 spots into second, now 6 seconds ahead of Ayuso. Ayuso moves down to third. Maybe that's indeed why Del Toro couldn't really do anything. Carapaz, not only Asgren's win being a good day for EF, Carapaz makes that first split, and he moves into fourth on 207. And yeah, he's looking dangerous. He's looking like one of the better climbers in this race. His TT was dog shit, but he's taken half that time back through making the right splits every day and attacking the other day. Roglic stays in fifth on 223, but the gap to Del Toro is now even bigger. 223, still a small gap if you crack on Finestra, but
yeah,
it's not a bonus second gap either.
If Del Toro cracks, that's gone in a single mountain stage. So that is very much a possibility. So he has not won the Giro yet, is what I'm trying to say. Week 3 is really hard. There's a lot of mountains there, a lot of hard mountain stages. San Valentino stages, 4,700 altitude meters. Finestre is the hardest climb in this race on stage 20. Super hard climb. If you have a bad day on either of those 2 days, you can be instantly out of the top 5. So he has not won yet, to the point that there's still the opportunity, in my personal opinion. I'm still of the opinion that there's 4 riders in this GC that can win this Giro. But I'll continue your list. 6th is Derek G, who jumps from 10th, now on 254 in the GC. Caruso is 1 second behind in 7th place. Tiberius' teammate is 7 seconds behind Caruso on 302 on 8th place. Then Bernal and Arensman are 9th and 10th on 338 and 345. Then Tom Pidcock sitting in 11th. So maybe week 3 breakaway stage might eventually lead him into the top 10, but his climbing so far has not necessarily looked like that for me personally. Like you said, Adam Yates, McNulty out of the top 10 now on 424 and 447, so they have completely lost the value of that multi-leader strategy of still having them in GC by not using them, like you said. One thing, Patrick, there was so much drama about after the Siena stage, the Strade Bianche stage. Should Strade Bianche stages be in a Grand Tour? Blah, blah, blah. Patrick, should flat stages be in a Grand Tour, my friend?
That's the thing. Should city circuits with a bit of rain be in Grand Tours? I mean, there's bigger gaps here, or the same gaps as that Strata stage, but just with less entertainment, I would say. So,
should cycling be in Grand Tours?
Should Grand Tours just be? They all start at the bottom of a mountain every day and just ride up it. Oh, we saw that in Tour de Suisse last year. It's a terrible race.
To be fair, yeah. It exists.
I wouldn't really watch that race. So what do we, before we preview tomorrow's stage, Benji, what does this change? I think Del Toro needs to be even more respected internally in UAE, if that wasn't already happening. I think Roglic, I don't know if he crashed or not, but probably his strategy stays the same. I think Ayuso is going to start panicking.
Like, the way I look at the final week is the following for me. If we look at GC right now, Carapaz right now is on his way to looking really good for a potential podium. The same for Simon Yates, although a bit more worried about the climbing for week 3 for Simon Yates versus Carapaz based on what I saw on the limited amount of mountain stages we've had so far. So there's not much to judge from at the moment. But if I then look at Del Toro, Ayuso, and Roglic, we have to appreciate 2 things about the multi-leader strategy. You've got the team view. If I'm UAE Team Emirates, I'm extremely happy about Del Toro being so far ahead of Roglic and Ayuso also being ahead, which means that you can use Del Toro as super defensive in the wheel of Roglic and try to attack with Ayuso to put pressure on him if you want to. You can play defensive with both riders, which I'm not necessarily a fan of. If you've got 2 riders in GC, I like to use them if I think about it. But you can also play it the other way around. If you believe that Del Toro is more likely to crack, then you can put pressure on Roglic with Del Toro, keep doing that, just like you've done in the last 2 weeks, and try and benefit with that with Ayuso. So there's three ways to go here. But then there's the selfish part, the rider mind, not just the team mind. At the end of the day, if you're a rider, if you're Del Toro, if you're a Yuzo, you don't want to win a Grand Tour as a team. You want to win a Grand Tour as a rider. Are we underrating that?
No, I think if it's like with Hindley and Kelderman in the 2020 Giro, it's really tricky. Like, what if, say, what if they get to the Finestra is different. You can't wait on Finestra, but yeah. I can see it happening that Ayuso begins attacking and exposes Del Toro, and then Ayuso himself doesn't win. And
I think it's possible either way.
Yeah.
I think it's very possible, like you say, that Ayuso attacks and Del Toro gets exposed. I think it's also possible that maybe Ayuso isn't the man at the moment. Maybe he still has issues from his crash at the Siena stage, etc. To the point that Del Toro does something crazy on a stage and suddenly Ayuso's in trouble while Roglic is not necessarily showing that same trouble. So that is the danger of trying to use this multi-leader strategy where they're both ahead against the Roglic, who is on paper behind. I think the most realistic outcome is going to be that I reckon they'll both ride relatively defensive. And if they see a weakness, they'll try and act on it.
I mean, I actually don't know what they're going to do. Like, I actually don't know. Maybe tomorrow we see them just like defending and riding, setting pace with McNulty and Yates. Now, I don't know. And tomorrow's a good stage to talk about it. Stage 15, the Sunday stage from Fiume Veneto to Asiago. Long stage, 220 Ks long, including big climbs. There's 104 Ks of mostly flat to begin, but there is the Muro di Poggio, which is 1K at 12.2%, 45 Ks in. So if the break hasn't gone, it should go there. We then have the Monte Grappa, 25 Ks at 5.7%, but really it's 12 Ks at about 7%, a flat section of 4 to 5 kilometers, and then another 8.5 Ks at 6.5%. Not the most brutal climb, but it takes an hour and 5 minutes, an hour and 10 minutes. So it's long. Then they have a descent, short valley of about 15 kilometers, 20 kilometers. And then they do the Dory climb from Finding Nemo, which Benji said 16.6 Ks, only 5% average. It's not that difficult at all. I don't know if it's a wide road. There's a Red Bull bonus sprint 2/3 the way up it. And then there's a hill zone afterwards, 1,500 meters, 8%. Short downhill, false flat uphill, and then like a false flat downhill to the finish at 1,000 meters. It is a flat finish. It should be a breakaway stage, but then there's so many GC teams that need to take time back now that I feel like someone is going to kick it off on the Grappa.
This parkour, I don't know why, reminds me of a stage that Lennart Kemna won from the breakaway against Carapaz, maybe? I'm thinking 2022? No.
2020 Tour de France.
2020? Really?
Yeah.
Are we that old?
Yeah.
Holy.
It's a pretty similar finish, yeah.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of that. I do see a possibility for satellite rider strategies if you really want to try something. I'm not sure anyone is desperate enough to try it, because usually when you're like thinking about satellite rider strategies, Patrick, you're in a situation where, okay, I don't think I can win in week 3. And this is like an attempt of like, okay, if we succeed here, we can be in the running again, but it might be risky. And on paper, Carapaz is the man for such kind of moves. You know, if you look at the parkour, then you try and get a rider in the breakaway, you try and have that rider reach a proper gap by the top of the Monte Grappa so that on. And in the meanwhile, you try to attack from the peloton on the Monte Grappa, and then you've got a satellite rider in the valley, those 15-kilometer valleys. The Dory climb, you have that satellite rider for a little bit, but most likely Carapaz would then have to go relatively alone for most of the climb, and then the last 30 kilometers are flat. So I feel like the stage might be too long, flat on top of Dory to see someone risk that.
If I'm UAE, I try to take big time with Del Toro tomorrow. I try to take another 30, 45 seconds. And on the explosivity, after a 5% gradients, he just looks better than Roglic. Roglic team is not so good. Pellizzari is good, of course, but I think, yeah, you get multiple riders in the break and you use that Red Bull bonus sprint if it's still in play, and you hope that you have someone for the last 30 Ks of plateau. And it could be Baroncini, it could be Vine, it could be Arietta, it could be Micah. Probably they keep Micah behind. And I'd go with Del Toro. And you know why Del Toro is more effective than Ayuso? It's because there's no one ahead of him on GC. So, like, is Simon Yates, 30 Ks from the finish, is he going to chase on the flat behind Del Toro?
No.
Is Derek G? Is Caruso?
Is Simon Yates going to chase on the flat after Ayuso?
Maybe not.
I've got the same feeling about both of them, to be honest. I do think, for some reason,
Del Toro's stronger, though.
Del Toro looks stronger at the moment, but he's also got the complete uncertainty about week 3. We don't know if he's going to survive week 3 at all. Like, we've never seen him do a week like that. We've never seen him do multi-mountain stages like the ones we see in week 3 in a serious race like this. So he can completely fall apart next week. He can also completely overcome next week. We have no indication, data from the past to see whether he can do that. So it's really hard from an external perspective, not knowing whether he could survive that, to judge whether he or a user should be making moves like this. They're both ahead, so I don't see them do it. I think they're going to keep doing what they did on San Pellegrino. They're going to play it relatively defensively. If something happens on Monte Grappa, they're going to try and close it down again. Micah's going to come to the front, set a controlling tempo. And at the end of the day, we might see a move on Dory, but I don't necessarily expect UAE to try and blow it up. I think it's someone else trying to blow it up, and UAE may be benefiting from it. Because that's what happened in a lot of situations in the Giro so far.
Yeah, it could be. It looks like a Carapaz stage again. I mean, this looks like where Richie Carapaz could go. Bernal. I mean, Ineos I'm looking at here. They're 9th and 10th on GC. They got to do something. And it's actually a really good Aronsman stage. Both are good Aronsman climbs.
We say that, but he needs to be ahead to make it an Aronsman climb.
Yeah, how does he get ahead?
Getting in the breakaway?
Yeah, probably won't be allowed in, though.
Don't think so either.
Yeah. I think a break wins. And although, yeah, well, I think a break will try go. A big break might go. UAE will perplexingly keep the break really close,
Yes.
then not do anything, and then counterattacks will begin and someone can sneak away again. That's what happened on San Pellegrino stage and could happen here again.
Yeah, I feel that as well. And when I look at the parkour like this, I feel like the instigators of potential moves are EF or Ineos, if we see GC action. But for the stage victory, ooh, Monte Grappa's not an easy climb. I would love to see Bardet win a stage. I'm not necessarily feeling him for a 30-kilometer flat section on top of a climb like the one at the end of the stage, though. So I think it's going to be someone else. I'm trying to look through the list at the moment.
I'm feeling Marco Frigo. Frigo or Plap. This stage is so good for Plap.
I've said Frigo way too many times in this Giro, and I've lost complete confidence.
I feel like Plap, if he's in there with Plap, Plap will just beat him. Pale Bilbao.
I think so too. I don't see it. Bilbao. Wow. It's kind of boring to go Plap again, no?
I think it's a really good stage for him. And if he gets a gap on the 5% climb and then a rolling 30 Ks of rolling terrain, he's not going to get brought back.
I'm of the opinion that Picnic Postinel should get Max Poole in the bloody breakaway for once, because he's 18th right now, and if he can get him in the breakaway, he can win. So Max Poole is my pick.
Yeah, who's going in the breakaway?
Max Poole. Come on.
Free Giulio Pellizzari.
That's never going to happen. Roglic will not let that happen.
Yeah. It'd be funny, though.
Yeah, but I think Roglic needs the man.
I think tactically, Pellizzari in the break is good for Bora.
Jay Vine's a good pick, but he's looked shit for the last week. Or is that
No, he's in the gruppetto, almost coming last rider the last 3 days. So there must be something up. Okay.
I'm keeping Max Pool.
You on Pool, I'm going Plappy. GC action?
Ooh. Yes.
Yeah?
Carapaz or Bernal will try something.
Yeah.
Especially because, like, Bernal's not in a good position GC-wise.
No, he has to do something.
He's 9th on 338.
Yeah, that's a long way from winning.
So I would like to see Tarling in the breakaway. Maybe not the ideal rider to survive Monte Grappa. Maybe as the tug buddy for someone else that can actually get over Monte Grappa. And then craziness from Ineos. I am begging you. That would make the race really good. But I think we have to somewhat wrap it up because I've got 9% battery left. But you want to talk about Burgos, or do we wait for the weekly show that we might do on Monday?
We'll do a weekly show. We'll do a weekly show that we'll release on Monday.
Yeah. Perfect.
And Burgos hasn't finished yet.
Fair point.
Well,
we know he's going to win, let's be honest.
Yeah, we think we know he's going to win. Okay, thanks for listening as always. Go check out Join Cycling through our link down below. And we'll see you at the recap of the Monte Grappa stage tomorrow. Until then, ciao, ciao.